Hello, Ollie here. Well, I've got my headphones on, don't need my headphones. So, quick review of The Everything Store by Brad Stone. It is a book all about Amazon and Jeff Bezos following the charting the rise of Amazon. I was going to say rise and fall, but unlikely to be a fall anytime soon. Yeah, really good book. Just going to quickly dash through these little notes that I've taken. I only just started writing these notes towards the end of the book, but some little nuggets anyway that kind of help summarize it. So, throughout the book, it does talk about Jeff's kind of attitude towards managing and running the company, and he can be quite brutal as a CEO in meetings and things like that. But ultimately, he's always thinking about the customer and trying to fulfill the needs of the customer, and kind of driving his employees in that direction all the time. And it has resulted in lots of friction, lots of people in and out, things like that, according to the author. So there's a couple of amusing things that made me laugh. He shouts out, like in meetings when he's really upset with people, "Why are you ruining my life?" And there were some other bits. Anyway, like that stuck out for me. "Why are you ruining my life?" Imagining that in a meeting, shouting that, quite funny. Also, a little anecdote that was quite amusing, just in terms of his kind of mindset around humour, in or not having one, in that when they were developing the Kindle or the e-readers, and he said something like, "Oh, it's great, it's so people can read one-handed," and someone was like, "Yeah, what are they doing with the other hand?" And it just like went completely over his head. Apparently, everyone was like laughing. So what are you doing with your reading one-handed? What are you doing with the other hand? Anyway, if you don't get that, you're like Jeff Bezos. Apparently, he apparently really encourages people thinking like him. Now, I think that can be very good, because his whole vision is really massive. Essentially, he wants to, completely take over, providing an amazing service and getting people buying stuff through the internet as much as possible, and reducing all the barriers to e-commerce, which traditionally has been an issue because people are so used to buying in shops. So, that's partly his vision, and encouraging people to kind of think like him, work like him, and people who did get promoted through the Amazon company, and they were kind of known as Jeff bots. So if you're a Jeff bot, you're probably going to do well if you work for Amazon, and if you're not, your tenure is probably not going to be very long within Amazon. There's quite a lot about work-life balance in there, and that he's like, don't need that. Forget about a work-life balance. Don't need any of that, which is pretty controversial, but built a highly successful company. So what are you going to do? There's the quote that I think people have said, whether it's from him or not, I don't know, but it's a good way of encapsulating his ideas, in that the only laws that he abides by are the laws of physics, and everything else is up for negotiation. I thought that was quite good. One of the books that he was inspired by was Good to Great by Jim Collins. I haven't read that, so that might be worth me checking out, or if you have checked that out yourself, let me know. See what you think of that book. Yeah, another kind of way that he got some of his frustration out was shouting, either, I think there was a meeting, and people who got the slideshows a bit wrong, and he was like, "Either you don't have high standards, or you don't know what you're doing." Whoa, harsh, man. And throughout the book, there's this idea of like, are you a missionary or a mercenary? And I think in Jeff Bezos' mind, he's very much a missionary. He's on a mission. But obviously there is the criticism that you're just that Amazon, whatever, big companies are just mercenary and they're just out to get as much money as you can. In Jeff Bezos' view, he's on a mission. He's a missionary. He's out to serve customers. He's out to help people. Obviously, stuff around tax avoidance and stuff makes people, rightly or wrongly, put the criticism that it's essentially quite mercenary. Brad, the author, at the end of the book kind of says that Amazon is both. So again, something to debate. Jeff Bezos is like, missionaries get the money in the long term, get more money than a mercenary in the long term if you're driven by a big, strong mission. So that's his justification. Is that fair enough? Again, up for debate. Oh my God. Space is always the goal. I'm not sure about the space, whether it's always goal. Obviously, he's doing his space missions, and I seem to have lost a little note in my book here, but it's all good. Something about Intel. Oh yeah, okay. So just some interesting bits around this whole, say, fulfillment by Amazon kind of model, and the idea that sellers can get onto Amazon, which is great because obviously lots of people have made their own little businesses out of doing fulfillment by Amazon, selling products as third party through Amazon. But there was a bit around this idea that it's like heroin being an Amazon seller in some ways, because Amazon have got a lot of these kind of logarithms that track and follow what's going on. So if you're on there as a seller and you've got a really successful product, or you've made a product that's really successful but it can be copied, Amazon are likely to copy what you've done very, very quickly, jump in and undercut you. So that's kind of a dangerous game. But obviously, like heroin, the high and the profit that you can make initially by getting these big sales through is really great. Then it gets cut because Amazon will come in with another product and undercut you, but the sellers keep coming back and doing it because they don't mind. It's like they don't mind the pain. It's like heroin. It's like they want that. They want the initial sales. I say it's like heroin. For the record, I have not done heroin, so but I can understand the metaphor. I've watched The Wire. Yeah, and he's talking about, again, Jeff Bezos, in terms of service. He sent a big memo called the Amazon.love memo, where he's talking about serving the company and also being able to be a part of creating a new age of creative surplus where the market decides. And this idea where you are taking out the gatekeepers, like traditional industries have always got gatekeepers, say book selling. It's always subject to, people reviewing books and saying, oh, this is the best, this is what people have got to buy. And his view is like, well, no, let the customers decide. And that's partly why the review section on Amazon is so important. So in the book, that's in chapter 11, where a little bit about the cool memo, I've called it. Apparently it's the Amazon.love memo, which he made. It's apparently one of the ways that Jeff Bezos communicates is through putting his thoughts out in these long memos. And with this one, he also sort of added a spreadsheet. So, and just in terms of another way of him communicating, if you're a big boss, this is what he does. If he's upset about something, or he gets a complaint directly from a customer, he would literally sort of put a question mark and forward it to the relevant managers, and that sends shockwaves of fear throughout the organization, and they have to rally around really quickly to try and solve it and then get back to him and tell him. And there was a big hoo-ha over some email correspondence as a result of selling lubricants on Amazon.com, and Jeff was so upset that apparently he just stopped selling lubricants on Amazon because he didn't want this kind of intimacy issues to be raised and customers to feel that their privacy was violated because people were getting emails based on their purchases around lubrication. Anyway, data versus anecdotes. yeah, so it was just it's an interesting one in that Amazon is all based on algorithms and logarithms and big data, massive data, and so much of the business is based on that. But at the same time, these little anecdotal stories like the lubricants can actually completely change change a whole part of the business. Like he essentially took that element out of the business, which would have cost a lot of money for Amazon, but he was just like, no, customers important. So there you go. A lot of references in the book to chess master, like Jeff Bezos' grand strategy around chess. He used to be a big chess fan back in the day, chess player. He's developing this massive kind of underground clock. I don't think I was really listening at that point, but this massive underground clock, which is designed to be a symbol around the importance of like having a long timeline. And I've always found that that's important. Me and my dad always talk about that. It's important to think long term, and we're always talking about politics in that the short term elections of the political cycle is kind of detrimental to long term thinking, and we need to improve that. Problem is the current answer to that is basically having tyrants, so don't really want that either. So, or do we? Send comment below, tyrants versus democracy. There's little nods to his frugality. Apparently the Bezos family still have a Honda. They still drive a Honda even though they've got these mansions and houses all over the place. But within the company of Amazon, there is always this constant drive for frugality in everything, which again is controversial in many ways, but from the Bezos point of view, it's like frugality is important because ultimately it means that customers get a better deal. So, hey, what are you going to do? He owns, apparently just towards the end is saying he owns, or one of his companies owns big stocks in the Washington Post, stock in Twitter, Bezos Expeditions, Blue Origin, obviously that's a space one, and he spends his Wednesdays working on the space missions, which is nice. I'd love to be able to do that, so, watch this space. Invested in Uber, Business Insider, which is a website for news about business, and a company called Rethink Robotics. Just very quickly, emphasising the customer again. He's got empty chair. Every time he has a big meeting, apparently, or any meeting, he tries to have an empty chair in the meeting. Point that way. This is an empty tunnel because I'm sitting in a train tunnel to get out the rain, if you're interested. An empty chair representing the customers. He wants to take all the inconvenience out of online shopping, like I said, at the front. And the last bit was from the author, Brad Stone, saying, in his view, Amazon is a mixture of the missionary and mercenary ideals. Make up your own mind. I really enjoyed the book. It's quite a narrative, which makes it interesting in terms of the rise of Amazon, but lots of little nuggets. So kind of different to some of the books. A lot of the books that I read are on directly about self-development and whatnot. So it's interesting to read this in the narrative way. There's lots of books that I like that, obviously, but yes, very enjoyable, and lots of references to the Walter Isaacson biography of Steve Jobs, which is also a good read. And I say read, I listen to it all on Audible, an Amazon product. But I also use Scribd, which I always go on about because Scribd is potentially better value, I feel. But there you go. I use both because books are good. Anyway, that's me for today. Hope you enjoyed that. Comment below if you want anything else related to the book, information, or have a suggestion for what I do next. I've got a whole big list of books that I'm reading, but I'm happy to do bespoke ones too if you enjoy this. Nice one. See you later.